You're listening to the Prosperity Report Love and Money podcast. Find out what every couple needs to become a winning team in love and money. We bring you actionable ideas from expert therapists and experienced married couples, helping you stay happily married longer. Stay tuned until the end. We'll leave you with a tip you can start using today in our 5-minute activation segment. Now here's your host, best-selling author, speaker, and psychotherapist, Kanae Corder.
Hey guys, welcome to today's show. Today, just like last episode, is a little bit different. So I want to set it up for you. Today, I'm going to interview two separate people. I know. So I'm going to ask for some grace. I don't know how this is going to go exactly. So let's experiment and let's just be curious and patient with me as I put this all together. But I wanted to give you a Allstate Purple Purse representative to give you some background and some information on that. But I also wanted to give you a story different from mine. I told my story last episode, but someone who was married and has been through domestic abuse. And this story is not your typical story. Like there's no outward abuse. There was no physical abuse. There was emotional abuse. So that story is, for some people, very common, and you'll hear in the story just how common it is. So just to set things up, you'll hear first from Keisha Davis, and Keisha's going to tell us some statistics about domestic abuse. She's going to tell us how to get involved with Allstate's Purple Purse Foundation. She'll also tell you how she's helped Allstate in the past and what Allstate has done over these years, because this foundation has been in place for about 15 years now. And so it's been in place for quite a long time. And over that time, Allstate has done some really good things and helped millions, actually. And that's so commendable. After we talk to Keisha Davis, we're going to talk to a new friend of mine, Monica. And Monica tells her story and what she went through in her marriage, how she got out. And also she's going to talk about what life is like now after being in an abusive relationship. She's dating and what that's like and her tolerance level for that kind of thing. And she talks a lot about gut and intuition. So I want you to listen to that. That'll be second. But before Monica comes on, I'm going to tell you how you can help. So like I said, Keisha gives us some ideas on how we can donate to Purple Purse, but I'm going to tell you a couple ways that you can join with me if you like in stopping this financial abuse. One way is to partner with Prosperity Club, and I'll show you how to do that. But first, I want you to hear my interview with Keisha Davis. So let's get into it. Hi, Keisha. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you, and I want to introduce you to the audience. Keisha is an agency owner for Allstate, and I asked her on the show today, one, because she works with Allstate, and two, because she's done some work in the domestic abuse space and really worked with Allstate's Purple Purse Foundation. So I wanted to hear her perspective as an agency owner and what couples need to do to put some things in place for themselves financially, but I really want to hear her experience working in the domestic abuse space. So can we talk about that a little bit today, Keisha?
Yes, my name is Keisha Davis. I'm actually the owner of the Davis Agency with Allstate. I've been an owner for about 3 years now with Allstate. Something that I love to do, especially when it comes to the insurance business, but outside of that is helping others throughout our community, which is one of the strong brands that Allstate have, which is going to be the Purple Purse Foundation. The Allstate Purple Purse Foundation is dedicated to breaking the cycle of domestic violence through financial empowerment. And I think that it really goes hand in hand, especially when you have a good relationship with your insurance agent. Because, as an insurance agent, I've learned is that you grow with your clients. So to me, they're not customers, they're long-time clients that you build relationships with. And, sometimes they feel, open to talk to you about certain things. And being that, Allstate has this Purple Purse Foundation, it allows you to kind of open up and give them resources about, different options if they were going through that type of domestic violence. One of the things that, with Allstate, they definitely keep us up on the statistics when it comes to domestic violence. And, one of the things that was an aha moment for me is that, domestic violence happens every day. I've never been in that type of environment, but it's something that I'm aware of and I try to educate myself of, because just because I haven't been through it doesn't mean that somebody else haven't. So if I have those resources, I definitely want to share it. Domestic violence, it doesn't discriminate. It affects every class, race, community, and even men are victims too. One of the things that looking at the Purple Purse Foundation, it was like 1 in 4 women will experience domestic violence in her lifetime. 99% of all domestic violence cases include financial abuse, and 3+ million children witness domestic violence in their families each year. So, one of the things with the Allstate Purple Purse is that since 2005, I think a Purple Purse has invested over $60 million to help more than 1.3 million survivors. Whether you're a nonprofit or individual looking to contribute, there's different ways that you can help the Purple Purse Foundation. So it's not all about money. The first thing is that you do have the option to donate, even if it's a small amount, it can make a difference for a survivor.
Yeah, I wanted to point that out because we're giving a portion of our Prosperity Club membership to Allstate's Purple Purse Foundation, and it's a portion, but all of it adds up. So the more people who get the Prosperity Club, the more people we can help.
Yes, I totally agree. Also, either as an individual or, as a nonprofit, working with Purple Purse can help as well, on different projects if it comes to revamping shelters, painting, donating materials and things like that. We help survivors by learning basically the valuable financial and work skills. But sometimes, like these families, they have to start all over, especially, if the abuser was the breadwinner. So now it's like, starting over from square A. So those are some of the things that we get involved in as well, talking about financials of starting over in life, when it comes to preparing you for interviews, looking over resumes, talking about, how do you set up checking and savings accounts, just the basics and life skills that, we help these survivors with.
We're going to talk to a real life survivor, and the person that we're going to talk to after you. It's funny that you mentioned some of the things you've said so far, like 1 in 4 women will experience that. Well, I tell a story later about how there were 5 or 6 women in the room, and all of them except me have been in an abusive relationship. So sometimes it's even more prevalent than the statistics say.
Yes.
Yeah. And she was also married and had children, and she talks about the exposure to the children. But the statistics are there to say what's happening, but the real life stories are right in front of us too.
Yes. And I think that where it comes as an individual, taking the title of being an agency owner, but more as a trusted friend to be able to open up and say, hey, I'm experiencing this. And, I may not have all the answers, but, I definitely get you the resources to figure out how we can get you out that situation. So overall, that's what the Purple Purse campaign is all about. And that's something that Allstate, they definitely brand within our agency and also through every agency owner. One of the things that I actually do within my agency at the Davis Agency is that I do have a Purple Purse. Basically, it's a bin where clients can come in and kind of donate personal items to where I can take it to a local shelter. So one of the shelters that's here in Huron County that we definitely help out is going to be the Haven House. So, we ask for clothes, getting ready to get into the fall, winter season, coats and things like that. The small things help. And we just try to give back any way we can, whether it be items, money, whether it be your time, but just being able to do something for your community and being able to do something for these families.
Yes, thank you. I want to point out that, and I don't know if you remember this, Keisha, but I sought out a specific kind of agent. I was like, I want an Allstate agent that is associated with Purple Purse. Like that was how we got connected. I don't know if you remember that. Yes. I will add that Keisha is my Allstate agent. She's not just a Allstate agent. And the way that I found her was that I was asking around. I already had an Allstate agent, but he wasn't doing anything with Purple Purse. In Chicago, I had an Allstate agent. My grandparents, for as long as I can remember, until they passed away, were with Allstate. So it's kind of like a legacy in our family. And then for Allstate to also be the head of this crusade against financial abuse, I was like, absolutely, this is so awesome that the company that I've been with for so long is doing something this great, and I want to be a part of it.
Thank you for allowing me to be able to kind of talk about the Purple Purse Foundation with Allstate. Because again, you have your different months, and October is coming up with Domestic Violence Month, but I think the awareness needs to be every day, every week, every month. It needs to be a conversation in general. So that's something definitely that we have to start having that conversation with. One of the things with Allstate, far as in Brandon, I know with Serena Williams, she's actually been the face of the Purple Purse for this year. So again, it's something that Allstate is definitely passionate about, especially helping these victims and these families, making them back whole and getting them back right on the right path.
Yeah. And I also do like that because before Serena, it was Kerry Washington.
Yes.
And I like that they do bring in some celebrities to be the face. But I also like there was the game that they played once, and there was like they left a purple purse in like a taxi or something like that. And then there was a cell phone in it, and they found there were text messages coming in, and they were abusive text messages like, when you get home, this is what's going to happen to you, and that kind of thing. And the people in the cab were so concerned and so like ready to help. And that was so awesome to see.
Yes, yes. So again, it's all about that branding piece, but the commitment of it. And, that's one of the things that Allstate stands for. And that's why I love being a part of the Allstate family.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I often ask a question about the best marriage advice you ever received or the advice you wish somebody would have told you. And as an agent, I want to specifically ask you, what is, I guess, a tidbit or a bit of advice that you can give couples that maybe you see they come into your office and they're maybe not on the same page, or maybe they, have some limiting beliefs, whatever it is. What would you say is like some really good advice you could give couples who are, looking to have the financial house in order?
I would say, honestly, communication. I think as a couple, you both have to be on the same page. And, my biggest thing is being an agency owner. When it comes to insurance and making sure that you're protecting and investing into your future, that's a conversation that I like to have with both parties, because I feel like that puts all of us on the same page. So I would say definitely communication. And if you don't know, ask. But I would say the key is just communication between the two and also your agent as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. When I was an advisor, I found that a lot of times couples weren't even having the conversation. They didn't know each other's idea of prosperity. They didn't have especially the tough conversations, but some of the easy conversations they weren't having. So they weren't on the same page, which is the reason why I created Prosperity Club and my Prosperous Life coaching program, because of this communication you talk about. So I'm so glad you brought that up, and it'll kind of tease us into talking about the Prosperity Club in just a second. But I want to first thank you for coming on and giving us your time, because it's a busy Saturday. So I know that you have to get back to your agency, but thank you so much. Is there anything you want to tell us, like how people can connect with you if they wanted to?
Yes, thank you. Well, first, with the Purple Purse Allstate Foundation, if you want to learn more about it, you can definitely go to www.purplepurse.com. It talks about the issues, how to get involved, the resources, and just the foundation of the Purple Purse, as far as in how we got started, what is our mission, what is our vision, and what is our commitment. Myself, as an agency owner, again, my name is Keisha Davis. I'm the owner of the Davis Agency with Allstate. My office is located at 2152 Highway 20 West in McDonough, Georgia. I am licensed in the state of Georgia, so we can have a conversation over the phone, or we can set up an appointment, however you prefer, to have that conversation. My office contact number is 678-782-6961. And again, it's the Davis Agency with Allstate. And I really, really thank you for allowing me to have some time with you to talk about the Allstate Foundation with the Purple Purse.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And of course, I'll put all of that in the show notes, guys. So if you're driving, no worries. You can click later and and I'll have it in the show notes for you. Thank you so much, and have a really prosperous day.
All right. And you too. Thank you again.
In honor of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, a portion of every Prosperity Club purchase will go to Allstate Foundation's Purple Purse. Our goal is to raise $10,000 and donate it to Allstate Foundation to assist domestic abuse survivors in becoming more financially aware. Did you know that 99% of all domestic abuse cases include financial abuse? And also that over 3 million children witness domestic abuse. I want to do something to help. And I'm wondering if you join me. There are 4 ways you can get involved. 1, you can shop our apparel line. $5 of every Prosperity Club tee is going to go to Allstate Foundation's Purple Purse. Let's say you buy 4 tees. $20 goes to domestic abuse survivors. All you have to do is go to KeneQuarter.com/shop and make your purchase. 2, you can join Prosperity Club, or you can gift a Prosperity Club membership to a couple you love. And again, $5 of every Prosperity Club membership will go to Allstate Foundation's Purple Purse. All you have to do is go to KeneQuarter.com/Allstate. Number 3, if you decide you want one-on-one coaching and you get a consultation with me, $20 of every consultation is going to go to Purple Purse. Here's what you do to schedule your consultation. You go to KeneQuarter.com/consultation. And here's the last way you can help. On January 7th, we are launching our Prosperous Couple Program. $100 of every Prosperous Couple Program is going to go to Allstate Foundation's Purple Purse. You can buy your Prosperity Club tee. You can join the Prosperity Club membership, or you can get your consultation. Whatever you do, you'll be the first to know when Prosperous Couple Program starts. And here's a bonus. Another way you can help. I'll give 10% of my speaking fee to Allstate Foundation. So if you'd like me to speak at one of your upcoming events, just send an email to VIP@KeneQuarter.com. That's VIP like very important person at KeneQuarter.com with the subject line speak, and tell me your needs, and you'll receive an email back with my availability and fee schedule. All of this will be in the show notes, so don't worry. Just check it out and you can decide how you want to collaborate with us to serve a great cause. We appreciate your generosity. However you serve, we are thankful. We're thankful that you listen to the Prosperity Report. We're thankful that you've become a part of the Prosperity Club in whatever way you have. And we're thankful that you're joining with us to end domestic abuse and financial abuse. We'll keep you informed as to how much we raise and next steps for continuing to help. Thank you so much for joining with us. So I am so happy to be able to talk to Monica, whom I'll explain is a friend of a friend, but now is a new friend of mine. So I met Monica just not long ago. I was hanging out with a friend of mine who was in town, and Monica's friend, Brienne, and I went to school together. We were in the same master's program. So she came to hang out with us, and she brought Monica with us. So I want to first introduce you guys to Monica, and then I want to tell you how I know Monica. So, hey, Monica, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Kene. Thank you for having me today.
Yes, I'm so excited about getting to hear your story and allowing you to share it with the audience. So I'm glad that you, I guess I would say, agreed to share your story, because I know that there's so many people that experience what you experienced, and one, just feel like they're not alone, but also maybe get some ideas on how they can heal and work through what they experienced.
Right. Well, I'm happy to be here. And if I can definitely help somebody else out who is or has been going through something like I went through, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. So, guys, I met Monica when we all went out. And while we were out, we were all sharing about our lives and just talking. And what I noticed was that every single one of the women in the room had been in an abusive marriage. Now, in different ways, of course, everybody had a different version of an abusive marriage, but everybody had experienced that. And I was the only one who hadn't, not because I was so smart or so lucky, but if you remember my story, the reason why I never got married was because I didn't trust men, and I wasn't sure I'd pick the right guy or that I could be happily married. So I was like, you know what? Let's just not do that. So that's really maybe the only reason why I didn't have that same story, because easily I could have had that same story. And I bring that up because I want you to know, anybody listening who might be experiencing this, one, that you're not alone, and two, that it's actually sadly pretty common for there to be, how many of us were there, Monica? Were there 6 of us?
I believe 6.
Yeah. And all of us, minus me, so 5, have been in an abusive marriage. Now, also, if you remember the last episode, I talked about growing up. My parents were in an abusive marriage. My father, my biological father, was physically and emotionally abusive. Also, my grandfather was emotionally abusive and mentally abusive. So I've experienced it. I didn't get married to it. So today we're going to talk about it specifically in marriage. And we're also going to talk about some of the financial abuse that goes on, but also how Monica moved out of her situation. So I usually start with a question about what is your idea of prosperity? And I usually end with what is the best marriage advice you've ever received, or the advice you wish somebody would have told you. I'm going to change it up today. Instead of talking about your idea of prosperity first, I'm going to ask you about marriage advice. What would you say is the best marriage advice you ever received, or the advice you wish somebody would have told you?
So you'll probably get a laugh out of this, but if you get butterflies, that's your body's reaction to say, run, run, run away. Butterflies are not necessarily a good thing.
Uh-huh.
A physiological reaction saying, this person's probably not good for you. And if I had just listened to my intuition from the beginning, I wouldn't have gone through the things I went through. However, on the other side of that coin, because I went through the things I went through, it led me on the path to meet people like you, Brianne, and many other women in my life who are very strong individuals who have blessed me and taught me the life lessons that I needed to learn. So while, yes, what I went through was not the most pleasant of experiences, and it could have all been avoided if I had trusted my intuition, I now trust myself 100%. If my body says don't do it, if I get that little inkling that says, something's not right, I dive deeper into it. And I question the person, question why am I feeling that way? And that way I can get a better insight as to what's really going on so that I don't end up in a situation like that again.
That is such good insight. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I got in touch with my intuition at a very young age, and my mom encouraged it. She was like, yeah, you were spot on. You should always follow your intuition. So I got lucky that she cultivated that in me. But what you're saying is so true. And I have many patients that come into my office and, they're still learning that sometimes, not being able to trust themselves, because that's really what it boils down to. You're trusting the other person and their words or whatever, the situation they create for you, rather than trusting yourself.
That's very true. If you can't trust yourself, how can you trust anyone else?
Exactly. It's a really great point that you bring up, but the other side of the coin that you brought up too is a really good point, because although it was an unfortunate situation, so much good came out of it, like the friends that you have built, the relationships you've built, the person that you have become, and even this podcast here today, where somebody out there is listening saying, oh my gosh, now I know what those butterflies were.
It was a warning. As one of my favorite friends always says, hashtag silver lining.
Yes.
There's always a positive side to every bad situation.
Yeah, I so believe that. And going back to my mom, her nickname is Silver Lining. That's what I call her because growing up, she would always have me see the silver lining. And it really has served me because the more you sit in the grief and the shame and the doubt, the worry, the more you sit in that, the harder it becomes to move on from it. So when you can see the silver lining, it definitely makes it easier for you. And I'm not saying it's easy, but easier for you to move through it.
This is definitely true.
Yeah. So I know in our pre-conversation, you talked about not knowing that you were in a abusive marriage.
Yeah, so my ex-husband was on the governor's drug task force, so he was in law enforcement. And now, fast forward 10 years, he is a chief of police. So clearly he's very good at what he does. And part of that has to do with a technique they call vertical judo. However, because they use these techniques on a daily basis, dealing with criminal suspects, whatnot, they don't realize that they're doing it at home. I don't necessarily think my ex-husband is a villain by any means, but I honestly don't know that he knows what he's doing. Like, I think he's lived in that world for so long that he thinks it's okay to treat people in the manner that he did because he doesn't know any better. That's what he does all day. Mm-hmm. And it's very hard for some people to come out of one role and step into another. So, yeah, I didn't realize it at first. And this is the way it started was, it was a fairy tale until we literally got married. So we get married, we come back, we close on our house that we had purchased together, and he makes a joke in front of the realtor, which he started making more often after this point, but it really just took me like, did you really just say that? And I don't know if y'all remember this movie called Sleeping with an Enemy with Julia Roberts, but one of the famous lines in the movie was, I won't live without you, and you sure as hell won't live without me. Mm. And if you've seen the movie, you know how unsettling that comment is, even in a joking manner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to imagine my surprise. I've just gotten married to this guy that we dated 2.5 years prior. We lived together after we got engaged. And then here we are buying our first house together. For him to say that, it's like, whoa, what's going on? Then there was an incident where he was accused of some misconduct in dealing with some violent criminals. While I understand what his actions were, they were inappropriate. And especially in the, light of what's going on in our society today, there needs to be a checks and balances on officers. I would definitely agree with anyone who questions what an officer does. Yes, question everything. But as we move forward into our relationship, and as you may know, most people know this, public servants, they don't have always the best salaries. So I started moving into positions where I was making the majority of the income, and I also have additional resources that I can access if needed. Well, he immediately didn't ask, but basically demanded that I dispose of the checking account that I'd had since I was 17 years old and move all of my direct deposits into the joint account. Now, at first I'm like, okay, I said, so does that mean you're going to do away with your personal account? He goes, oh no, I have to keep it because of the duplex that we have in South Carolina. I was like, yeah, then I'm going to keep mine too, but I'll put the majority of it in there. Because I'm like, why am I getting rid of part of my identity, but you're not? So, and, he was like, why do you have to rebel against everybody? And, I was being a bad guy because I wanted equality and equity in our relationship. So I put everything but $100 into our joint account. Now, if I question the finances, like, well, why do you have all this money to go do these things, but I can't? All I had to spend was that $100. But he was going to lunch every day. He was buying new jet skis. I'm sitting here going, but you're restricting my access to the money I made. And once we had kids, it got even worse. So it wasn't just restricting like my use of the funds. I literally had to call and say, can I go to the grocery store? Well, how much do you think you're going to spend? Dude, wow. I know how much money we make. we have more than enough money to go to the grocery store. I didn't feel like I should have to ask to go buy groceries.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But every day off you have during the week, you're going out on Lanier on our boat. It's in a private slip. But yet I have to ask to buy groceries. So one thing after another started happening. One day I realized, because he left his wallet at home, that he had additional credit cards that he didn't let me know about.
Wow.
I was like, oh, so I went and got me one. Mind you, a small limit, just $500, just in case of emergencies. He literally didn't speak to me for a week.
Wow.
When he pulled my credit and found out that I had gotten that credit card, because I lied to him. I lied by omission.
And so what made him pull your credit? What was happening in your life?
The reason why was because, we had just had our second child, and he was thinking that we needed a bigger house.
Oh, okay.
So he was doing it, as he says, for pre-qualification.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And then from there, when he did start talking to me again, then he was like, I don't know if we should continue being married, and like trying to use finances and money as like blackmail. Like, if you do this, I'm leaving you.
Mm.
And, when you have two small children, one that had medical issues because he was premature, but I'm sitting here going, I'm balancing this career plus babies, plus dogs, plus all of the expenses that I didn't incur, you incurred. And I'm like, really, you're going to just leave? You're just going to leave on me? So, yes, I felt some kind of way about that.
Right. So part of you felt fear, like, I don't want to be the single mom who doesn't make it. And even though you had proven to yourself that you can have a job and, you were doing well in your career, there was still a part of you that felt like you needed to stay in this marriage to survive.
Right. However, those things changed once I found out that he had cheated on me. And his backlash to me at first was, well, you lied to me about a credit card. What? And you refused to put all of our money into our joint account. He was like, if you think you're going to leave and find somebody who's going to deal with somebody like you, good luck, because nobody's going to want you.
Okay. So then there was the verbal abuse where he's bringing you down, discounting you, and making you feel worthless.
Right. And of course, here, if you looked at us from the outside, everybody thought we were literally the perfect American family, two gainfully employed adults, two beautiful children, two dogs, the boat, the house, cars. We had everything, but I didn't have love or trust.
Right.
Because I kid you not, as soon as we got married, that mask came off. The average person will tell you, oh, people can't put a mask on that long. Yeah, they can. Any professional will tell you, or an abuser will keep that mask on until they get what they want. Then they will use them, abuse them, and either keep them as just a toy to play with, or they'll toss them to the side. Yeah. And after that, when I realized that everything in my gut, that my gut had been telling me was true, there was no looking back for me. I tried to work with him because I needed to know in my heart of hearts that I did everything that I could do to save the marriage. Mm-hmm. But when he wasn't making any effort to change or to look at my quote unquote index card of like 7 items, whereas he had 13 things he wanted me to do and I did all my 13 items, I was like, yeah, this isn't working. And I filed for separation, which he didn't think I would follow through until he saw me get my rings resized and put on my right hand. And then he's like, oh, she's serious.
So let me ask you this. Did you all go to counseling? Did you go to marriage counseling at all?
Yes, I demanded it. And I think he just went out just to appease me.
Okay. Did the affair stop or did it continue?
Oh, no, it continued.
Oh, okay.
And anytime I would confront him, Monica, you're crazy. You're just acting crazy. Why would I do that? Why would I jeopardize? Because you have, and you did.
Right. What you experienced was that gaslighting that they talk about, that you felt like you were crazy. Like, how I know this, my gut is telling me this, but he's so good at pulling the wool or, creating the smoke and mirrors that you were having a hard time believing yourself.
Right.
Okay. And let me ask you this too. So the verbal and mental and emotional abuse was enough to like cause your gut or those butterflies to come, at what point did you know that you were in an abusive relationship?
When he flipped out and refused to speak to me, hold me, like he held back affection over a stupid credit card.
Okay. Got it. So at this point, he was stonewalling you, which basically holding your emotions hostage. You're not able to talk to him. You're not able to have any affection, and basically just checked out for as long as he wanted to and then checked back in when he was ready.
That's correct.
Okay. And I think a lot of times people don't understand, one, how prevalent mental and emotional abuse happens, but also how effective it can be. Because you weren't going to work with black eyes.
No.
Right. So it's a lot harder. And then you had the pretty outside. So everybody thought you have the perfect marriage. So even if you did complain to somebody, they're like, girl, hush, like, please.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So who was I supposed to talk to? It wasn't until he cheated on me and I had proof of it that anyone was like, oh, maybe he's not the perfect guy after all.
Mm-hmm.
Because let me tell you, he's very charismatic. He's very personable. People love him.
Yeah. And that a lot of times when you look at the, abuser abuse dynamic, a lot of time the abusers are dynamic. They're very charismatic. They know how to get people on their side. And a lot of times it's because they are making up for whatever hurt happened to them in their lives. So they create this persona so that they don't get hurt.
And then they punish everybody else.
Yeah.
Because he's getting ready to go through his second divorce, from what I understand, which I explained to his current soon-to-be ex-wife that while I hate that she's having to go through it, I wish her best wishes. Because he had convinced her that I was this crazy woman and, not to be trusted and I was dangerous and all these things. And guess what? He's doing the same thing to her.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like he hasn't at all seen his.
No.
Yeah. And so he's having a hard time adjusting or moving or changing and actually creating the same pattern. So she now has her experience of abuse, and that happens a lot. And what I really want to make sure we mention is that this is not exclusive to men. Like there are women who emotionally and even physically abuse. This is just Monica's experience. Of course, it's more prevalent with men than it is women, but it also happens with women.
Well, his mother is the root of this problem.
Okay.
His father was in the Air Force, so therefore he would be out on deployments or whatever for periods of time, and his mother would take in control of everything, and she tries to manipulate everyone and everything.
Yeah. Manipulation is a form of abuse because you're taking the control away from you're taking that autonomy away from the other person, and that is a form of abuse. Now, I wanted to specifically talk to you because usually when we think of domestic abuse, we're thinking of the black eyes, the bruises, but there are internal bruises that don't heal. They don't heal like the black eyes do. So I want to ask you, how did you begin your healing process?
Fortunately, because my mom is also in a similar field as yours, she was able to reach out to some other colleagues, and they referred me to an amazing counselor in Georgetown, South Carolina. And the first thing he said was, Monica, number one, you're not crazy. Number two, he was like, you're a very healthy human being. He goes, what you've gone through, basically have to deprogram you so that you can separate what happened from who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like who he trained you to think you were versus who you really are. He realized that when I spoke about what happened, I didn't say there was no emotions in it. It was just fact. This was said, this happened. He goes, so there is no twisting of the story. He goes, it's consistent. He goes, if you ask your ex-husband a question, and he doesn't like the scenario. He gets defensive. You can tell it in his body language, his posturing. He basically had to deprogram me. It wasn't that I wasn't confident or anything like that. It was just the fact that over 10 years, I had literally been programmed into thinking that this was normal and okay. This is not normal. It's like, the programming was wearing off and I could see the wizard behind the curtain and realized, hey, this is not okay. This is not right. That was the first step, was realizing, A, I don't deserve this. B, I deserve more. And C, now how do I get myself out of the situation?
Yeah. You said that you filed for separation. The second question that I have for you is, when it came to your children, were they aware of the abuse or this tension in the household? Would you say they were aware of it?
My children were very young. As you know now, they're 12 and 13. Then they were 3 and 4. Mason remembers that Mommy wasn't happy. He remembers a very specific look, and he was like, Mommy, it'll be okay. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
But he knew there was something wrong, and he knew that I was in emotional pain, but he didn't know what was causing it. And I didn't want them to know. I don't want them to have a bad picture of their father. And, he still gets angry with me. Why did you tell your daughter we can't talk about it? I said, because the divorce papers say we can't. I don't want them to have a biased view of you. You're their father. Mm-hmm. Just because we didn't work out doesn't mean you're a terrible dad to them.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I'm glad you mentioned that you can separate that he is a good father to them, not a good husband to you, because a lot of times people aren't able to do that. And that's big of you to be able to have that strength to say that, because once you're hurt, sometimes you'll just see the person as the abuser and that's it, that's all. So I commend you in that. And I don't know if I want to say commend you, but a lot of times people will stay for the children thinking that, oh, I can protect them from it. But in your case, you said, no, the best way to protect them is for us to get out of this.
Right. And that's very true, because here's the thing is, the older they get, the more conscious they're aware of it. And then they learn those behaviors too.
Yes.
So if I remove myself from the situation, then it will mostly stop it. But you asked about the bruises, what bruises are left behind, even though they're not physical, that you can see.
Mm-hmm.
Triggers. And I'll give you a quick example. I had a friend who we had dinner. He's, an average age banker. He's like a senior VP at a rather large national bank. And he's a really great guy. He's smart, intelligent, whatnot. Similar but different. But I'll just tell you what happened. So we're having dinner, and he brings up Colin Kaepernick, which, of course, in the new Nike commercial, which then went down this whole rabbit trail. And of course, because I had a difference of an opinion relating to it, or I had a different perspective than his, as we're finishing the conversation, he just stops and goes, Monica, is there something wrong with you? I mean, are you crazy? And I just looked at him, and I stood up, pushed my glass back, grabbed my purse, and I was like, have a lovely evening, and walked out. I did not need to explain myself. But just because you have a difference of opinion from someone, or you see something from a different perspective, doesn't mean you're crazy.
Yeah.
And it's never okay to joke about quote unquote craziness. And so, yes, there are bruises that are left behind, certain triggers that I'm like, I have little patience with, because you're basically being a bully. You're being a verbal bully by saying, well, you don't agree with me, so you're crazy.
So what I hear you saying is, you don't take things lightly. Maybe if that experience didn't happen to you, then he said, Monica, are you crazy? You might have said, no, are you crazy? And it would have been lighter.
I would have just laughed it off. But because I've already been through it, I'm not about, you draw boundaries. You're like, sorry, we don't go there.
Yeah, right. And that's great that you have your boundaries and you found where you just put your foot down and stand your ground, because many people haven't found that place to stand their ground. And I'm, again, going back, that's male or female, because I have male clients who haven't found their boundaries or, their strength to say, no, I'm not trying to please every person, because there's a part of you that could have stayed in that conversation and tried to prove that you weren't crazy rather than saying, I'm going now.
Right. Because at that point, I didn't need to say anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am so glad that we got a chance to talk. The last question I have for you is, what is your idea of prosperity? Like, what is the good life to you now?
The good life, it's right now. It's having a small group of like-minded friends and family members that you know that if you call them or text them will be there. You have similar ideals, morals, character, integrity, but you don't always have to have the same opinions and perspectives because that would be really boring. Have a constructive conversation and have different perspectives and respect them. So the good life for me is having my friends and family, those who, I'd like to use a very colorful word, but I'm sure it would be deleted. But, I'd like to have a couple of jerks around me that I know that keep me in line and say, hey, Monica, you bring it in a little bit. Or they'll tell me about myself when I'm acting ridiculous. Those people, those are the people that usually get shut out of people's lives, not realizing that those are the best people to have in your life.
Yes.
I dated a guy for 2.5 years, and several of my friends still question my sanity about the fact that we are amazing friends, because he will point blank say, hey, Monica, I'm glad to see you're making better choices, knowing that you have dietary restraints. And I'm like, ha, 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 jerk. And he's like, but I'm your favorite one. And he has a point. He is my favorite jerk. The good life, to sum it up, is surround yourself with love. The world is not run by chaos. It's run by love. And the more love you give, the more love you'll receive.
So, yeah, sometimes we see agreement as love, but you made a great point. Just because we agree doesn't mean we love each other. And just because we disagree doesn't mean we don't love each other. We can love each other and disagree. And when we can figure out how to do that, that is true love.
It really is.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. And if there's anything else I can do, please let me know.
Okay, great. It's time for 5-minute activation, a quick financial therapy session to get you activated and on your way to increasing the love and money in your marriage. So can I get 5 minutes of your time? Just 5 minutes for a financial therapy activation. On today's 5-minute activation, I'm going to talk to you about forgiveness. Yes, I know that is a tough word. And maybe you're thinking, what does that have to do with financial therapy? Well, I'll tell you. When we are holding on to the past, it makes it really difficult for us to enjoy the present and also really get that prosperous life we're looking for in the future. The very best thing you could do for yourself is to let go of the past so that you can have a bright future. That prosperous life that you have been searching for could be blocked by unforgiving feelings that you have inside of you. Take a few minutes to think about the people you have hurt. Also, give some thought to people who have hurt you. And maybe you do a good job of that. Maybe you think about that every day. But it might be time to let it go. And letting go doesn't necessarily mean you agree with what they did to you. What letting go means is that you won't be imprisoned by what they did to you. Are you ready to forgive? Are you ready to clear the prosperity blocks that are keeping you from living your best life, for having your idea of prosperity? Are you ready to be forgiven? Now, sometimes pride and ego get in the way, and we don't want to let go or admit that vulnerable feeling is tough, but it may be necessary for you to break down those blocks, clear those walls that stand between you and your peaceful life. If you're on the path to happiness, maybe you're in the prosperity club, or maybe you have another way that has gotten you on the path to happiness. Either way, you don't want to stop it. You don't want to slow down your progress by holding on to the past, especially because a lot of times the things we're holding on to, the person who's hurt us has totally forgotten about it. So they're not imprisoned at all, but we are. So let go of that story that you're telling yourself over and over and over again. Let go of that anger, that resentment. All of those things keep you from living your prosperous life. Write a list of people you need to forgive and ask forgiveness of. So maybe there's somebody that you can commit to forgiving. And maybe there's somebody that you can commit to asking forgiveness from. It may be a list of 1. It may be a list of 10. Whatever it is, take a look at it. Address it. Don't overlook it because it could be holding you back. Don't you want to get there with grace and ease? Forgiveness is the way. Forgive people who have taken credit for your work. Forgive people who haven't paid you back. Forgive people who haven't said thank you or really appreciated all that you are and what you've done. Forgive those who have made you feel bad about yourself. Don't give them that power. Take your power back. Forgive those who may have bullied you, made your life harder. They're hurting. And I know that's no excuse, but allow yourself to forgive so that you can be free. Forgive your parents. Forgive yourself. Forgive your ex. Even forgive your God if you need to. You can type a letter and give it to them, or type a letter and just burn it. Sometimes just getting it out is enough. Or you could go and see them and have the conversation face to face or over the phone, whatever you choose. You know what's right. Take action. What action will you take to let go of the past, to forgive, and to move forward into your future? You can do it. Remember, you'll see it when you believe it. So believe first that you can break down these blocks and then go for it. And that's our 5-minute activation for today. I will see you next time. Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you want more love and money conversations, subscribe to this podcast. Also, tell your friends about us. I'll see you next episode. But in the meantime, head on over to KeneQuarter.com for more tips, tools, and resources. And go ahead and leave us a comment if you like. We'd love to hear from you. This show is not to replace professional counsel. The best advice comes from a professional you know. The topics discussed in this podcast are general in nature and are for entertainment and informational purposes only. We encourage you to meet with a professional to discuss your specific situation, whether financial or therapeutic. That's all for now. I'll see you sooner. Remember, no matter what anybody ever tells you, you can have wealth in all of its forms. Believe it, and you will soon see it.